But in post-war Athens, things were changing fast. The trauma of occupation, followed by the euphoria of victory, was transforming the city. Before the war, the foundations of democracy had been laid, but it was democracy in name only. In reality, it was men with money who had the say. Now, a massive power shift was taking place. Welcome to the cradle of democracy, an Athenian trireme. Powered by nearly 200 oarsmen, it was sea-borne battering rams like this that had annihilated the Persian fleet at Salamis. At the hour of crisis for Greece, it was the poor of Athens who'd squeezed down onto these cramped rowing benches and sent the triremes smashing into the hulls of their enemies. These were the have-nots of the city, the bottom of the political pecking order. But after Salamis, all that changed. The oarsmen who'd endured the sweat and the stench and the terror of being down here had won a historic victory, and now they wanted to have their say. Athenian democracy was galvanised. The champion of the Athenian oarsmen was Pericles. He was a wealthy aristocrat, exactly the sort who'd run the so-called democracy in Athens for generations. He was also shrewd enough to sense that things had changed, and ambitious enough to put himself at the head of that change. Pericles could see that in order to secure power, he needed to distance himself from the nobles, play to the gallery, ingratiate himself with the people. He was a formidable orator, and his powers of argument and speech won them over. But it wasn't just what Pericles said that impressed the citizens of Athens. He designed a mass civic building programme that, in effect, would be a job creation scheme for the city's poor.
All kinds of enterprises and demands will be created, which will provide inspiration for every art, find employment for every hand, and transform the whole people into wage earners, so that the city will decorate and maintain herself at the same time.
True to his word, Pericles opened the coffers of Athens to pay for public festivals and grandiose monuments like the Parthenon. But most significantly of all, he introduced state salaries for juries and war service. Now the oarsmen could trade in their rowing benches for seats of power in the city. For the first time in Athens, democracy was really coming to mean government by the people. And this is where its voice could be heard, the Athenian Agora. If the Acropolis was the soul of Athens, then the Agora was its beating heart. It was here that the day-to-day life of Athens took place. Artisans and lawyers, shopkeepers and philosophers, men from all walks of life rubbed shoulders here, creating the buzz and bustle of the most democratic city in Greece. Official posts were open to everyone, irrespective of their wealth and status, and you were expected to pull your weight and participate. On days when speeches and debates were heard, all the exits to the Agora were closed, apart from the one that led up to the Pnyx, where the Athenian assembly sat. Slaves with ropes dipped in red paint would chivvy citizens up the slope, marking out for a fine any who dragged their feet or tried to slip away. In Athens, democracy was enforced as rigorously as military discipline was in Sparta. And it was a highly charged affair. Athens had gone democracy mad, and this was a dangerous time to stand out from the crowd. These pottery shards represent Athenian democracy at its most extreme.
They're called ostraka, and they worked as a kind of public referendum. If you thought anyone deserved to be exiled from the city for 10 years, you'd scratch or paint his name on the surface. In theory, they were used to stop ambitious individuals manipulating their popularity to gain too much personal power. But in practice, they were the perfect way to settle old scores. Just imagine the situation. You've got a grievance against a rival, you persuade a number of your friends to write his name down, and hey presto, for the next decade, he's history.
These ostraka gave us our word ostracism. What the practice created was a tall poppy's syndrome with a vengeance. It meant that many of the men responsible for Athens' wealth and security ended up as exiles, a long way from home.